I have a supernatural voice. I speak without the use of vocal cords. This is not a known alternative speech production process. My voice was given to me by the Lord Jesus Christ. You will learn by watching my testimony that my voice is different to any voice known to you. My name is Neels Cornelissen, and this is my story. I am very excited to share with you this life-saving technique, which I call my Neels air swallowing and laryngopharynx closing technique with you. I will not be surprised to find out that I'm probably the only person in the world that can exercise this technique. After I received this new voice, this voice that you are witnessing right now, I realized that all the techniques that I practiced for many years and well trained and mastered all form part of my new sound production process. When I initially produced sounds, I had no idea where it was coming from. I knew that it was not coming via my vocal cords. I was given a new voice, and with that came tremendous challenges. I first learned to produce sounds. Well, any kind of sounds. Whatever I produced, I pursued. It felt like every sound was coming from another place. To me, every sound was a hidden treasure. I was on a voyage of discovery. I thought that it would be logical to start to learn the sounds of the alphabet first, but that was too difficult. The sounds that I could produce was unrecognizable. I did not knew where to start, but knew that that was right from the beginning. When a baby starts to speak, which words comes first? Do you remember? Mama and Papa. So I tried the mama, and after a while it sounded just like mama to me. I was much excited. This was a painful experience. After I could produce the mama word, I tried the papa sound, and I had victory over that as well. Every sound produced was very painful and also very emotional. Tears were rolling without stopping. I was locked up at home. My family, my wife and my 2 sons would lock me up in the mornings before they left for work. I was bound to my bed and still very sick and very weak. Only after the mama and papa did I learn the alphabet. That was very challenging. Only after the alphabet did I formed words, and much later learn to produce words. I realize that without the 2 most important words, you will never be able to speak properly. If you don't have the two words mama and papa in your vocabulary, you will never be able to speak properly. At the age of 53, I had to learn to speak right from the beginning. At that age, I learned how difficult it was for babies to learn how to speak. In future videos, I will share more about that period in my life. Only after about 3 weeks could I produce words, and after about 2 months did I make my first short sentences. After practicing for 3 months, could I engage into a very basic form of verbal dialect. How did this all happen? You are about to find out. I'm taking you with me on an incredible voyage discovery for you to understand my new voice and for you to comprehend my supernatural new voice. You need to have some insight of my techniques that I have discovered. This part of my testimony form parts of my greater testimony of how it is possible for me to speak without the use of vocal cords. Lord Jesus sometimes uses whatever you have available to perform the miracle. He does not always add to what you already have, but sometimes add to what you don't have. On 18 April 2012, I was diagnosed with a cancer growth, a size of a golf ball, a 45.4 millimeter diameter carcinoma, a quick growing growth inside the upper part of my esophagus. On 30 April 2012, a cardiothoracic surgeon gave me the shocking news that I have a maximum of 3 months to live with or without an operation. His exact words were, "It is impossible for you to live longer than 3 months." I was in a terrible condition. I underwent 12 days prior to this news an operation that was a total disaster and total failure. The result of this failure operation placed me in a very high risk category. I also suffered a condition of malnutrition. That was also a very high risk operation. A professor of his caliber and with his experience does not make this kind of mistakes. Only God could change the outcome. Although shocking news, but did not came to me as a total surprise. Why was that? Because about 2 to 3 days prior to this news, I told myself that I would have about 3 months to live. How did that happen? I was very aware of the rate that the cancer growth was growing. I will share more about this part of my testimony in future episodes. This technique became a vital key element to better my quality of life and in my alternative speech production process. I was so desperate and knew that if I could only succeed in what I had in mind, it would be an absolute survival necessity. Why do I say this? I will explain some detail and some explanation in this episode. I had to learn various survival techniques. I lost my ability to speak after a total esophagectomy operation or gastric pull-up in 2012. Also, after the operation, my body lost its ability to protect itself against the results of acid regurgitation and acid reflux. An esophagectomy is the removal of the esophagus. Only the bottom part of my stomach was used and formed into a sausage and pulled up into my chest cavity and stapled 5 millimeters below the height of my larynx. The process of acid regurgitation and acid reflux became beyond comprehension after the esophagectomy operation. This is my air swallowing and laryngopharynx closing technique I developed under my own personal conditions after suffering severely from acid regurgitation and acid reflux. In all truth, this statement is a total understatement. I was in a process of dying. Let me share this devastating period of my life with you. The very small sausage-type stomach that I was left with after the operation still had the ability to behave as a stomach. My small stomach was intolerable to most foods. Many times, the food would force back up into my nasal pharynx and mouth, even flying out of my mouth. Acid content continued flowing down my larynx and into my lungs. I was suffering severely. I had no control over any acid regurgitation or acid reflux. The passage between my stomach and laryngopharynx was an open passage without no valve or anything to prevent or obstruct food and acid regurgitation and acid reflux. I was bound to stay upright and was also sleeping in a sitting position. The moment I would lower my head, a certain amount of stomach content will automatically flow out my laryngopharynx into my oropharynx. My epiglottis, uvula, nasal pharynx, larynx, trachea, and lungs were suffering non-stop, excruciating burning. I was suffering severe conditions as a result of this condition. I knew that I was in a process of dying because I experienced my life disappearing from me. I was in this life and I was living this life. I remember my head was spinning in circles because I had to find a solution to block this boiling pot of acid from overflowing. I knew I was on my own because there was no medical assistance. I remember turning to the Lord Jesus Christ for help, to find a solution to stop the food and acid regurgitation. I was without any quality of life. 3 months after the operation, I experienced an amazing breakthrough. This technique, I was told, was impossible to carry out and couldn't be done. This was according to every doctor and professor I was involved with. This happened after I developed this technique, and I learned later that medically it was impossible and couldn't be done. Or could it be done? That is the question. All the survival techniques that I learned over many years was God's ultimate plan to give me a good quality of life and a new voice without the use of vocal cords. Little did I know about 9 years ago when I developed this technique and later mastered, it would become a vital procedure in my sound production process. I have no approved medical background or any medical qualification. This air swallowing and laryngopharynx closing technique I developed based on my personal experience and knowledge. All my techniques that I developed were all based on how I think, hear, feel, and experience when carrying out these techniques. The air swallowing and laryngopharynx closing technique is very effective to eliminate or even prevent acid regurgitation, acid reflux, and food or liquids that pushed back up my laryngopharynx by closing the laryngopharynx. Air swallowing, by carrying out this technique after an total esophagectomy or gastric pull-up procedure in the early stage after the operation, was more effective. Forcing air down the esophagus and intestines will assist to prevent food and liquids to push back up the esophagus. The air, therefore, acts as a bumper. Early after and even years later, my digestive system were very intolerable to many different foods, liquid drinks, sugar, and spices, etc. I was forced to eliminate all soda and fizzy drinks. I eliminated all foods and drinks that might cause a reflux. I started to follow a healthy, balanced diet. I decreased my consumption of all drinks and increased the consumption of water. When gas built up in my digestive system, I would use this technique to allow the gas to escape under controlled conditions. When the force of the reflux was very strong, I normally had enough time to position myself in an upright position before I released the reflux under controlled conditions. During the full duration of developing this technique, I was bed-bound, fighting to recover from this operation. I received chemotherapy 24 hours a day for 2 separate weeks and received radiation for a duration of 30 days. I was very sick and very weak and could only consume a few spoons of food per day. With every movement of my body I had to endure was painful. Every swallow exercise was not without an effort and not without pain. Normal breathing had its own level of discomfort. I was faced with a decision: to curl up and die, or to find a way to better my quality of life. I decided to live and to do whatever was necessary to stop this burning. In the previous episode, I shared with you the technique, the nerd technique. Air swallowing is very effective to reduce burning in the esophagus and stomach. When I developed this Neels air swallowing and Laryngopharynx closing technique, I had to do a lot of research in my own body. I repeated the swallowing process many hundreds of times and focused on the following. I tried to identify the role of every individual body part and muscles during the process of swallowing. I followed the process from my mouth all the way down into my intestines. With every action, I felt pain because my stomach was stapled to my feeding tube and was hurting me with every slightest movement. Breathing was uncomfortable. My objective was to block any acid regurgitation and acid reflux. That was the major challenge. The burning that I was experiencing was virtually unbearable. The very moment I got something right, I was shocked. I could hardly believe what happened. In the future episodes, I will be able to share with you the greater experience of that moment and the days that followed. I can't wait to share with you this mystery. I will share with you the process of this very technique, and I will take you on a discovery journey, and for you to witness a phenomenon that doctors were unaware of. A mystery will unfold before your eyes. I thank you for taking the time to watch this part of my testimony. I trust that you are a little more enlightened and that you will also follow the next part of my testimony that is coming soon. I want to leave you with this next promise. The Bible tells us in Jeremiah 33 and verse 3, "Call to me, and I will answer you, and I will tell you great and hidden things that you have not known." Wow. I think that we have so much to learn, to explore in our own physical body. It's like a treasure waiting to be found. When we call upon God, He will answer and show the hidden things that has been hidden from us forever. in the future episodes, He will show us many of these hidden things I am referring to. My prayer is that God will bless you all. Till we meet again, and goodbye.